The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Fridays here. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you. Busy Friday. A lot of news on the recruiting front to get to. We'll do that in short order. The topic of blowouts. Not asking or do I care about your political affiliation. It's not what this show is, but a lot of blowback and feedback and reaction to the presidential debate. Bad performances on a national stage. If we reference into college football, what Husker game did last night's debate remind you of? We'll go there. Clausborne is back from exile. Plenty to talk about with Claus coming up at 5:40. Some commentary from the man that's imaginary and wears red. Proud of Fairbury, Bill Doleman joins us down in SEC country in an hour. And coming up, we'll get things rolling with Jacob Padilla from Hail Varsity and Hurrdat Sports at 425. Can join us at 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at hailvarsity.com. As always, welcome on the stream with the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Like and subscribe there. You can also dial us up and hang out with the Hail Varsity YouTube, Hail Varsity Radio at H Varsity Radio. Elijah, you are grinning. Happy it's Friday or something got your wheels turning. Good to see you.
No, I see. Well, I'm always happy that it's Friday. That is great news. I'm seeing Skylar hopping on the What Up Nerds wavelength. So I'm glad to see that spreading. We have some accusations flying at Crew here in this stream.
I saw Crew last night at the gym.
Did you now?
Yeah, he walked up to me, this guy who spends plenty of time on his arms, and he just kind of, no, that's fine. I'm not knocking Crew. The Crew did have one of those cut-off T-shirts that showed the stomach and arm work far better than mine. And this dude in a Hawkeye cutoff rolling up to me. Like, are you Schmidt? Like, yeah. He's like, Crew. He's like, Crew. Nice to see you, man. I haven't seen you since that night at the bar.
Yeah, tell Crew hit another leg day sometime. He is president, apparently. Maybe he's listening. Crew, if you're listening, work on those legs, buddy.
No, but I'm sitting there wheezing like making an obscene phone call on the treadmill with my 20-pound vest on, gripping and holding on for dear life onto the bar with the treadmill, watching episode 1 of Ozark. And I'm a little, you watch shows and there may or may not be some nudity in whatever shows you're watching, right? Whatever series you're into. And you just don't want to be that guy where first 5 minutes of Ozark, you got Marty Bird checking his laptop out. And you don't want to be that guy on the treadmill watching, some guy's watching something he shouldn't be watching during a business meeting. Whatever.
It's a similar,
fast forwarded through it.
Similar experience to like being on a flight. And you got it like pulled up and you like look around and be like, hey, did anyone see that? No children around? Okay, we're good. We're going to keep on rolling through this, I guess.
Yeah, you don't want to be the guy in the middle seat in the airline or by the window or in the aisle and, mom and her kid are stashed next to you on a cross-country flight and, hey, let's fire up Shameless.
It's Junior's first Hollywood sex scene. That's all it is. Which sounded wrong coming out, but I mean, like in terms of like being in the secret story. Right. Okay, yeah, okay. We're just gonna let that one lie.
He has not been offered any contracts, but yeah, I blew that up a long time ago with watching Ted when it came out, and he was 4 or 5 years old, and he comes out of the bathtub with his little towel on, little dinosaur towel, and he's at the top of the stairs, and I'm in the living room, and he sees this bear sniffing powder and then doing the knife thing at with Captain America or Flash or whatever the superhero was from the 70s TV show. And Carson thought that was the funniest thing. And then his mom got home from work and he said, hey, put your hand down, spread your palm out. And then he got his crayon and was ready to try and do the knife trick. So I got scolded for that one. But anywho,
better with the crayon than with the knife.
Pardon me? Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Did you try to give that selling point off? Like, at least we raised a son that's smart enough to not use an actual knife.
Mommy, let me see your hand. 489-1240, 489-1240 to get in. So the topic of bad performances, we'll get there. Bruce Feldman on Nebraska, his sit down with Colin Cowherd, and some kind words we'll hear from Mr. Feldman on Nebraska. So let's get our starting 5 shout outs going. Red Knight 79 made it to Friday. That's awesome. Jeff in second. Crazy Spider Adventures in third. And he's brought his fam along. He's related to Jimmy. That's his uncle. And A-Dub is his little brother. So 3 Crazy Spider Adventures family members in. Cliff in from Florida. Cliff, good to have you. KG is in. Justin, good to have you. Sal says, what's up? And he's like, told you Mr. Tapu was going to announce. We'll get to Mr. Brian Tapu or Tapau. Either way, it's 6'8", 300 on offensive tackle for Nebraska for 2025. Coach Brandon is here. And also Crew. Crew is in. LFG Crew, good to have you. Brennan from the Black Hills, good to hear from you, Brennan. Brent is in. NCZ checks in. Mike is here. The other Dave. Tim is here. Moonbot has RSVP'd as well, our starting 5 plus a few. Vic from Denver. So Cliff is shouting out his significant other, my smoking hot Victoria's Secret model, turned 54 yesterday. Been married 35 years. Congrats, Cliff. Good stuff. Tiger Shark Diver is in as well. We'll get to more of your comments. Anonymous is already in on what games are comparable to debacles with the debate. 25 years ago would have been a short list. Now, since I'm limited to 200 characters per post, I could take 20 different entries. And he's going to go back to 2014 Wisconsin, the 59-0 stretch where Nebraska got hammered and got handled.
Let me say this. That's a fine answer. I disagree. I don't think you have to go back very far. Because what my main takeaway from the presidential debate last night was no matter who you supported going into that debate, you hated all 90 minutes of it. Like, all of it was just bad to watch. It was not enjoyable. I know debates aren't supposed to be enjoyable, but this was like extra brutal to watch. Be like, these are the 2 candidates that we have that could potentially be leading our country for the next 4 years. Either way you look at it, and not to get too political, that was just my main takeaway. It was brutal to watch. And I think back to a Husker football game where no matter what side you supported, it was just brutal to watch. How about last year, Nebraska, Illinois?
Nebraska, Illinois.
Iowa State's a good answer, too.
This might be the winner. This might encompass last night for many of you. R Ringer 65 maybe goes nail and head here. Remember the 2009 Iowa State game? For the love of God, multiple fumbles. You lost 9-7 to Iowa State. It was the first game I was so pissed off, says R Ringer 65. I left before it was over. You had just weirdness happen with that Iowa State game. You had a tough one with Niles Paul and the fumble. You had all Nebraska did. All they allowed was what? 3 field goals? No, it was a touchdown and then a crazy safety.
And
I think that happened.
I think, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, I have to look this up. I think they only allowed like 100 yards and change of total offense to the Iowa State offense, something like that.
It was incredible. And then I liked Paul Rhodes, but he broke down in his post game saying, "I'm so proud. Listen to me. I'm so proud to be your coach." And the place goes nuts.
Yeah, that one sucked to watch. I remember that one.
That was just a bleep show for both teams for a full ball game. Anonymous seconds the 2009 Iowa State game. He left 3 times. I've never been so uncomfortable at a game before the 2009 game. Spitting rain all game. So my short list, depending on who you're for, that last night could have either been the 0-1 62-36 Colorado game or the 70-31 Wisconsin Big Ten championship game if you're a Nebraska fan, or it could have been 52-7 against Colorado, or the Fiesta Bowl against Florida, where you annihilated Spurrier and company 62-24. Those are my points of reference. But we'll take more of your comments. But I think the correct answer right now is that 2009 Iowa State game. That team needed Joe Gans. Let's get into some recruiting here. And 2 gets in 24 hours for Nebraska football. So Ceyair Wright, or Ceyair, we'll say it for a third time. Ceyair Wright started 11 games for SC, top 100 corner when he came out of high school, 6 foot, 180 pounds. Elijah, big get for Nebraska. And we'll reference Matt Rule a couple of weeks ago. I don't know, the summer is blurring for me. But Rule touched on how they want to not run guys off and use what they have. Totally agree with that, but there was the door left open for a position of need. Right now, you have Tommy Hill. You don't know when Bly Hill's coming back. You've got youth that's talented but inexperienced in Charles. You like what Hartzog can do as a fit at safety, and Boodle really going to be talented, but is it too soon to throw him in that deep of water? You don't want to wreck a kid's confidence and play him before they're ready. You seem that too much. But here's Rule, couple of cuts on the cornerback spot first. He loves the room. But if you can have 2 experiences, you might have a Tommy Hill 2.0 situation when you look at Ceyair Wright. Coming out of high school, I mean, you had Tommy Hill as a 5-star dude that was at Ohio State. He just needed the right situation, and you've seen the coaching that Nebraska's given him and him blossom, him flourish. It could be a similar situation with Wright. Talent's there. Can he get in the right system with the right coaching? SC's defense was atrocious a year ago. Here's Matt Rule, and sneak this in.
Yeah, they'll be good. Let me think back to last year. Omar Brown had really, how many games had Omar played before last year? Not many, right? Phelan hadn't really played on defense at all. Giff was playing a whole new spot. Deshaun hadn't really played. Tommy hadn't really played. Our job is to not see people for what they've done, but for what they can be. Now, we'd love to have experience, right? But we're pretty experienced on defense. We have a lot of guys back there who I believe can do it. Now, I mean, if I had an older guy, would I love? Yeah, heck yeah, I love that. If you can get me 2 Tommy Hills, I'll take it. Tommy Hill was in the same exact boat last year. We literally were. We were going back and forth. Is he a wideout? Is he a DB? Tommy came to me in week 4 and was like, "Coach, I'm not starting. I'm not really playing. Should I redshirt?" And I was like, "Well, can we give it one more?" Because he had one more week to play. I think maybe it was game 3 or maybe he didn't play in one. I can't remember how it worked out. I was like, "Let's give it one more week and we'll make a decision next week." Well, now I can't turn on my Twitter without seeing he's one of the top returning corners. So I just think our job, instead of taking the easy way out and always looking outside, is to look inside first. But again, if there's a corner sitting out there that wants to come in and compete for the job, I'd take him right now, because that'll help those young guys be better players.
Well, so that is Matt Rule. There's your advertisement, speaking directly to maybe Ceyair, right?
Well, yeah, he put the line in the water and referenced everything what he believes. Not running guys off. I'm just adding to be a better football team. Do we have time to squeeze in the second part of Rule here?
We'll be right up against it, so.
So, no?
Probably not.
All right. More comments from the stream. Anonymous remembers the Iowa State fake punt. I remember covering that game and just being in the post-game media session with Bo, and the guy's jugular was popped out all post-game because he was so, what the hell? You know what I mean? With that performance. So Iowa State 09 might be it. You had another Jay Downey checks in, says last night went about like the Ohio State game in 2019 over in about 10 minutes.
I think you could also throw in Georgia Southern 2022 into this conversation.
That was a close game, though.
It was a close game, but like it was one of those games where you had to sit back and just be like, man, what is the state of everything I know and love right now? And you had to accept that it was not good.
Yeah. Skyler he checks in. Skyler says, I was in the Nebraska band for the Big Ten championship tragedy. I've never felt such shame. That's a word, tragedy. Cliff was asking about Tamu, and I don't think he's taken a mission trip. We'll hit more into the recruiting facets here this first hour. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
We're asking you what Husker game did last night's debate resemble? And Moonbot is in with the speed limit ball game with the Pirate and Leach and Tech putting up 70 on the Big Red in 04. I think that one was 70-10.
Yeah, the thing about that is that at least somebody had a good night there. Like Texas Tech fans enjoyed that thoroughly. I don't think anyone thoroughly enjoyed the debate last night.
And Nebraska was never on TBS again. We welcome in Jacob Padilla with Hail Varsity and Hurrdat Sports to talk some ball. Jacob, good to spend some time, man. It's been a while. How's hoops been going?
Yeah, it's been a few weeks here. Just happen to be in a gym every time.
You're good.
The last couple Fridays, right about this time. So yeah, it's been good the last couple weeks down in Kansas City. Got to see a lot of players play well. Got to catch up with some coaches and had a good time down there. So it was a pretty cool event. First time being checking out the new home field building there in Kansas City. Really nice setup there. So last couple weeks have been great.
What's the worst blowout or weirdest game you've ever had to cover for Nebraska football or basketball?
Oh, geez. Off the top of my head, I don't.
You were just uncomfortable watching.
Well, I don't know. The first blowout that comes to mind is like Creighton, Nebraska. There've been a couple there where Creighton's got off to a great start there. I was up in Omaha for one of those when Creighton really put it on them early. There've been I don't know that there's any that stand out really, because it's like, yeah, let's move on to the next one. kind of push it out of your memory and hope that you don't have to find a way to explain that again. But yeah, there've been some rough ones for Nebraska over the years, that's for sure.
The ones that stand out to me, Hoiberg's first year, you get blown out by UC Riverside, and then you follow it up with a double overtime loss against some directional school.
Yeah, that was a very rough start to the season. There were several examples during that non-conference, even before he got into the Big Ten play, where it's like, well, this might not go well.
Jacob Padilla with us here on Hail Varsity Radio, opening up some old wounds. And Jacob, quickly here to keep things light for a second before we dive in, to some NBA draft thoughts, landing spots for Trey Alexander, Baylor Shireman. Any time to watch Space Jam this weekend? Are you planning on watching that? Have you seen it yet?
Yes, I've still not seen the new one.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, I'm born in the '90s. I've seen it many, many times. It's kind of a wild. Somebody just asked me about like that because of Bronny yesterday. It was like, oh, that was those weren't actually his real kids in the movie, right? It's like, no, come to find out, it was somebody else that would be coming into our lives. So,
well, funny, yeah, Ceyair Wright, who played LeBron's kid in the new Space Jam movie. Jacob, you might have to sit down and write a story on his performance in Space Jam. We want Jacob Padilla's grading of Ceyair Wright as an actor before the football player.
Yeah, have not seen. I don't know that particularly. I mean, with the original, is the nostalgia is what makes it good. I don't think you'd have that with the new one. I'm a fan of LeBron in general, but I haven't really watched much of him acting. But hopefully Ceyair's much better on the football field than he is elsewhere.
There you go. Well, Nebraska able to get a couple of commits, right? One of those players, Jacob, and also you got Tapu from the high school in Salt Lake City where Tony Finotti coaches. And just a quick thought on the addition to that secondary room where there's young talent, but Rule's not been bashful about adding.
Yeah, that's one where you kind of felt uneasy going into it, obviously with the Bly Hill injury, that you kind of doesn't like, you think you'll be okay, but it's still, I think, being there for the start of the season would be optimistic, it seems like. So someone that's probably going to miss some time there. And obviously he hadn't started a game for Nebraska yet. So even if he was fully healthy, it wasn't 100% given. You've got Malcolm Hartzell kind of floating around back there as a utility guy that you could move back to cornerback. But they seem to like him at safety better. So, and that's kind of where he focused on him in the spring. So if you bring in a guy that you feel like can definitely play for you, I think that makes that easier. Kind of gives Evan Cooper a chance to put guys where they fit best versus where they need them. And then lets those young guys kind of take their time. We saw Ethan Nation departed from that room. So you've got Jeremiah Charles as a young guy that you like. You got some others back there, but guys haven't played yet. And you needed a cornerback opposite Tommy Hill there. And we thought it would probably be Bly Hill in the spring, and then the injury happened. And that kind of threw it up in the air. It's like, oh, is it going to be Hartzog? Is one of the young guys going to have to step in there? When is Hill going to be back? If Wright comes in there and is able to win a job, the guy that started a bunch of games for USC last year, got a pick, 28 tackles or something like that. He's a guy that has played high-level football, which is more than you can say for almost every other option that you had there besides Tommy Hill. So it's a big pickup there just because I think it adds a level of comfort. Like you feel pretty good about the top-end options in that secondary there with the number of guys that have played football for Nebraska and some of the kind of young guys or the newcomers that you might be excited about. So I think getting that one more cornerback with experience kind of completes that room and allows you to feel a little bit more comfortable there that you can survive an injury and that you're starting out from a better place.
So, Jacob, then are you in the EA Sports camp whenever you look at USC's defense? You called it high-level football. I'm not sure a lot of people would call USC's defense high-level football.
They didn't play. They played at a high level of football. They didn't necessarily play it great as a unit, but he's been out there and had to play against some talented players.
So he's good enough to go compete. He's got the pedigree, right?
Yeah, well, and we know he's had to defend a lot of snaps, right? The defense has been out there quite a bit, so had a lot of balls thrown on that defense. So he's got plenty of reps. We'll put it that way.
Good work. Good cover. So we're going to talk NBA and the Creighton flavor with Trey and Baylor. And Jacob, I know you've covered Baylor Shireman for quite a bit of his career. Reaction from the draft and him landing where he landed. Just a super duper athlete that has worked hard. And man, what a cool moment.
Yeah, no doubt. It was pretty cool to be there. He had place was packed at Let It Fly in downtown Omaha for his draft party. Some of us started to get a little nervous there as kind of the last few picks started trickling off, and some of the teams that he had been connected to went another direction. But at the end of the night, talked to some people. It sounded like Boston was like, yeah, we absolutely love you. That was kind of the feedback from them. It was just they didn't think that he'd get there. So the fact that he's still available for them, like, yep, all right, let's do it. But because I know fans just in general, like, don't even have to be a Creighton fan if you're a fan of high school sports in Nebraska, of great stories of hard work paying off. Go check out the Becoming Baylor mini doc on all our social channels, but you can find it at the Hurrdat Sports YouTube page and pretty much anywhere else. Kyle Byers and the whole team did a fantastic job on that thing. It was pretty cool. Baylor kind of welcomed him in to follow him around for these last couple of weeks and to be there for a lot of this stuff. Talked to his high school coach, Tom Leininger, talked to his family. He's got some home videos there, clips in there of little Baylor. So they just did a fantastic job putting that together. So we had a lot riding on this because of the way the documentary was already shot. Like, they needed him to be a first-round pick. And it ended up even working out even better because the introductory clip talks about Liner talks about him as he was the Larry Bird of our level, and then here at the end of the doc gets drafted by the Celtics. So kind of a callback to the beginning. It really helped the thing tie together. It was just a lot of stress for Kyle there that last hour of the draft there. It's like, all right, we need this pick to happen here to kind of pull it together. So it was definitely worth it. Just some stressful moments in between, and it was really cool to see Baylor's reaction, his family, just everybody there. He's a guy that's done it right, put in the work, treated people well, and now he's accomplishing his dream of getting to go play for the 2024 NBA champions.
Yeah, and Jacob, you kind of stole my talking point. I was going to ask you about the Larry Bird of Aurora and if it's a fair comparison or not, but you kind of stole my thunder a little bit. I will say, though, from kind of seeing some of this behind the scenes, the amount of work that's gone into this, highly recommend you check it out. That's the Hurrdat Sports YouTube channel. A really in-depth piece, really great work by the team, so go check that out. Jacob, before we get to Trey Alexander, his landing spot with my Nuggets, I want to ask you something you led off the interview with. Bronny going at pick 55 to the Lakers. Apparently his agent was calling around to teams saying, if you take Bronny, he's going to go play in Australia. He's only going to play for the Lakers. You have a reaction to the nepotism that we're seeing in the NBA in the last 24 hours?
Not really. I mean, stuff like this happens in every sports level. At the last 10 picks of the draft, it's rarely just the 50 through 60th best players available. A lot of times players in that range, they tell teams not to pick them so they can go pick their landing spot as an undrafted free agent. A lot of those guys aren't signing guaranteed contracts anyway. That's where you see a lot of the draft and stash over the years. It is what it is. So the Lakers decided like they wanted to make this happen. And obviously it's something that Bronny and the family were comfortable with. And it's an agent's job to try to set up his client as best as possible. And sometimes that's working out for everybody and trying to just go out and impress whoever is willing to take you. And sometimes it's trying to steer a guy to a specific landing spot. I mean, we saw Alex Sarr at the top of the draft, just didn't work out for anybody but Washington. So it is what like, I'm not getting worked up over it. Like Bronny definitely, like, just off his college sample, like, he definitely isn't a draft prospect. But that being said, last year was weird with the heart situation, coming into a dysfunctional team mid-year after missing out on the kind of so much of the preseason work where that's really important for freshmen coming into college. He was a McDonald's All-American. He looked the part back in high school at Hoop Summit, all this type of stuff. Like there's some talent there. Like he's definitely not his dad, but he's worth I don't have a problem with him being on a team and getting to see if he can turn himself into something here further removed from the health scare and chance to focus on basketball and get back to what he was previously.
Jacob Padilla is with us from Hail Varsity, Hurrdat Sports. Jacob, 2 minutes on the other side if we can get you for it.
Yep.
We'll do that and get Jacob's take on Trey Alexander and his landing spot, what Jacob's been working on, and all sorts of great coverage with basketball and some Husker football thoughts. Hail Varsity rolls forward on a Friday, powered by Cornhead Lager.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out on a Friday. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. A few more minutes with Jacob Padilla from Hail Varsity and Hurrdat Sports, and Jacob Padilla _ on Twitter is where you follow and find him. Talking a little NBA draft. Of course, Husker football, getting Ceyair Wright, the corner from USC, to land in Lincoln from the portal to help strengthen that secondary. And Brian Tapu will get some thoughts on him this segment, the kid out of Layton, Utah, part of that 2025 offensive line room. Jacobs, to put a bow on things with Trey Alexander and his landing spot with, we'll say it, Elijah's Denver Nuggets. Trey's outlook here at the next level. What do you think?
Yeah, he was signed almost immediately after the draft, which kind of tells you they were working on it towards the last 10 picks or so. And he was definitely a priority to get that done so quickly. So that bodes well. Making it as on a two-way contract isn't easy. Basically, it allows you to get your foot in the door, and then from that point on, you got to go out and prove yourself. You got to show that you have the potential to continue investing in. These two-way deals can be 1 or 2 years. You can swap those guys out. Basically, you can cut these guys and sign new guys if they're not getting it done. You don't like what you're seeing. So it's not like he's got a multi-year rookie contract here. We'll have some time. He's got to go get in there and go to work. But obviously, it's a good organization. We'll see. I mean, as a two-way contract, chances are you're not going to get in the rotation or whatever. But you've got to, like, depending on how they feel about you. If you go out there and perform in the G League, perform in practices, take advantage when you do get out there, you can turn that into a real NBA contract. We saw Bryce McGowan's with Charlotte started on a two-way contract. That was the rookie contract they signed, and then they converted him to a full contract during the year after they kind of made some other moves and kind of reassembled the roster a little bit there. So we'll see. I mean, as a two-way contract, it's not like he's going to be playing out there with Nikola Jokic for 20, 30 minutes a game or whatever. But, I mean, a chance to learn from a guy like Jamal Murray for a player of Trey Alexander's skill set, I think that's will benefit him well, just being around and kind of seeing how he operates as a guy who is kind of that scoring combo guard that maybe isn't the most athletic, who wins with craft and as a tough shot maker, really works in the mid-range. So it's as good a guy as any that he could learn from. So I'm just happy that he's able to find a spot so quickly, one where he's comfortable with, a good organization, and now it's up to him to kind of prove that he belongs in the NBA.
Do you see a similar path for Casey? Still no news on a landing spot for him.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything either. I don't know at this point if I'm trying to remember because he's obviously working on some stuff back home overseas with Japan and all that. So I don't even. I may be making this up. I thought I saw something about he wasn't going to be participating in Summer League. Again, maybe I saw something else. I'm conflating it, but yeah, I think he'll have a chance to be successful wherever. He's got some landing spots there. Where obviously back in Japan with his national teams, with the Olympics, with the 3x3, all that type of stuff. He's got a lot of avenues there. No matter where he goes, he's going to be. I think he's going to be in high regard just because of the kind of following he has, the player that he is, kind of the show that he puts on. So I don't necessarily know that the NBA is in the cards for him, but he's going to be making money playing basketball for a long time.
Jacob, good to get caught up again, man. We'll talk here in a couple of weeks likely, and if we don't bump into each other, enjoy your fourth, and thanks for a few minutes.
All right, thanks, guys. Good to get back with you.
There he is, Jacob Padilla with us from Hail Varsity and Hurrdat Sports, 489-1240. Open phones and chance for you to comment in the stream. Question of the day. Last night's presidential debate reminded you of what Nebraska game? And more comments. Cliff from Florida says the Nebraska-Syracuse 84 infamous Carrier Dome upset. Shane checks in. Says the debate reminded me of last year when Michigan came to town. A lot of hype around the game. Many people thought there was a chance, yet we fell flat on our face and embarrassed ourselves. I think Michigan was just that good. They killed about everybody last year.
It can still be embarrassing. I mean, it was the kind of that moment, that litmus test of how far the climb.
How far away are you, or how good are they? One game that I saw on Twitter last night, the comparable, was the Georgia-Florida State Orange Bowl from last year.
A lot of hype built up around it. It wasn't Georgia-Florida State.
Yeah, it was.
Was it?
Yep, Georgia got knocked out by Bama.
You're right. And it was like what was the final score, like 63-10?
Got skipped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, not good. Let's talk about Brian Tapu 2025. So this was interesting, Elijah, because Nebraska felt amazing back on June 14th, that official visit weekend. Nebraska's been trying to add to their offensive line room. Coach Donnie and Coach Rule and company did everything but get a signed paper in blood that weekend, okay? And the final visit was to Oregon State for Tapu, who's coached again by Tony Finotti in Salt Lake City. That is Layton, Utah, West. And really talented guy that is, first and foremost, an athlete at 6'8" and 300 pounds. A guy that not only can move at that tackle spot, but is incredible at finishing blocks. There's some tenacity. There's a bit of a streak there. And then just talking to a couple people today about him, you have that combo of one of burying somebody with the athleticism. And then you have a family connection at Oregon State, because a lot of the Husker recruiting insiders were like, how the hell did this happen as of Sunday night into Monday to start this week? How'd Nebraska lose this kid to Oregon State? You've got a little insight.
Yeah. Potential uncle connection up there at Oregon State, which swayed the decision. I wonder how that conversation went, though, once Wednesday rolled around. And you're like, wait, I may have screwed up. How does that conversation go with both coaching staffs as a recruit? Like, to call back to Oregon State a couple of days after committing and being like, yeah, about that. And then to call back to Nebraska and be like, you know how I committed to Oregon State 2 days ago? You still want me, don't you? I kind of screwed up. Like, that's got to be a rough conversation to have as an 18-year-old.
Well, if you're Nebraska, you're like, dude, what's up? What gives? We thought you were good with us. And then if you're Tapu, you're like, uncles at Oregon State, you guys can understand that uncle situation. just a little bit, but all's well that ends well.
Hey,
Doug checked in.
A lot of time before signing day. Let's not say ends.
No, well, that's true. There is still time. And the word on Tapu is he will not, at least at this moment, will not enroll early. And I don't think he's taken a mission trip.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Final time this hour, it's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Weekend edition tomorrow morning on Hail Varsity YouTube, 7:45 a.m.
Ish.
We promise. Can watch the show and check out the podcast, Hail Varsity Radio. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, the segments you want to hear or the entire show can rewatch video form, Hail Varsity YouTube, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Give Elijah a follow at Herbalessence at Schmidt_radio for me. Bill Doleman, 10 minutes away. Clausborne, he's imaginary, he wears red. Some Clausborne commentary coming up at 5:40. So reminder to buckle up, use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries only if properly worn. Make it click, a message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. So one of the tweets of the night last night when we talk debate, and we're not here to beat you over the head politically because you love sports and that's why you tune in. But Shooter McGavin on Twitter is really hyping up, instead of a second debate, let's get Biden v. Trump on the golf course for real, because both guys were spewing BS about their golf game last night. And in Shooter fashion said, winner gets grandma's house. So I kind of love that. But Elijah, do you know anybody that is just so full of BS about their golf game? Have you golfed with anybody like that they've talked themselves up to be this elite, incredible golfer, and then you get out there and it's atrocious?
Yeah, I know one of those guys. It's you.
No, I don't talk my golf game up. Like I'm bad. I know I'm bad. I've broke 100 twice in my life. I know I'm horrible. And I just like getting out. I play enough golf, or I try to anyway, during the summer on the weekends, that you just want to not suck with the group you're with, and not ask to be back, or them to ignore the phone call. When you say, hey, want to go play 9, want to play 18? Busy. Oh, yeah? Yeah, I'm taking a hammer to my right palm, and so I don't have to play. But
are you hitting the course this weekend?
I am, tomorrow.
What time tomorrow?
I think 11:40.
See, I got a busy day tomorrow. So we got the Hail Varsity show, and then I have to be on the baseball diamond at 10 a.m. tomorrow for umpiring. Finishing up umpiring, going straight to a 2:00 tee time. Finishing up.
Oh, you're playing?
Yeah, it's gonna suck. I'm not looking forward.
Where are you at? Lincoln,
yeah. Here in Lincoln.
Yeah.
So umpiring.
I'm out in Milford.
I'm umping just outside of town, then coming back to town, and then I have an engagement party. So I'm going directly from umpiring to the course to an engagement party.
You're going to be absolutely lit by midnight.
Oh, I'm going to smell horrible at this engagement
No,
party.
I'm just saying you're gonna pound some beers with your boy crew, and then you're going to go to this engagement party, and you're going to switch to liquor.
Oh, and then I have to get up and umpire again on Sunday morning and probably get heat stroke because I'm so dehydrated. Yeah, good luck to me this weekend. The mission is survival.
Our friends from Big Red Junkies, don't play golf not to suck, play golf to drink. If you need a negative goal, shoot for not passing out before the turn. That's solid. There's some golf podcast that is out there that they do some good stuff on social media. The clips are quite hilarious, where they're heckling folks teeing off, and if you crack up, it's too good before you tee off. Bill Doleman on the way.
He's the pride of Fairbury, an average Joe. Bill Doleman, the professor.
I had a 6 ACT in 1967. One time I got an A and my grandma beat me for cheating.
Now with Hail Varsity Radio.
He is ready to go on a Friday. Proud of Fairbury, NBC Sports. The professor is Bill Doleman. Mississippi or Florida, Big Cat? Where we stationed today?
Mississippi today.
Been
to Florida. Actually been to Florida a couple of times, and now back in Mississippi, and eventually back to Nebraska.
Well, that'll be good.
Where are you near the coast of Mississippi, or are you in the bad part?
I'm about an hour from the coast, about an hour from Biloxi. It's all good.
I say that as somebody who's been to Mississippi.
Are you in the bad part?
I love Mississippi. If you're not near the coast, you have the little circler on Oxford, which is great. Everything else, stay away.
The country club adjacent fellas have a take on Mississippi, Bill Doleman. I will have to send you.
Yeah, we can't play that on the air.
No, there's no way. Skyler was appalled that we're talking about our golf game, or maybe he's not. I can't tell in the stream. But Bill, we had folks last night on a national stage talking about their golf game, but on a football reference point, last night's debate was what blowout in the world of Nebraska football or basketball did last night remind you of? And the winner so far, the leader in the clubhouse, to keep with the golf theme, is the just from a bleep show from start to finish of a football game, the 2009 Iowa State-Nebraska game, the 9-7 loss to Paul Rhodes. I'm so proud to be your coach.
Yeah. Well, that game, as awful as it was, look, both teams were bad. Last night, one side had a very good night, and one side had a bad night. So I don't think you can equate that game necessarily. It was just difficult to watch, right? So okay, look, I'm going to break it down in a different way. If you're a Democrat, okay, I think last night's debate was similar to the 1995 Nebraska-Michigan State game in East Lansing. Nebraska wins it 50-10, right?
Beat Nick
Saban, right? Lawrence Phillips, had an incredible game. Things went bad after that. All right, that aside. But if you're a Democrat, I think you look at last night and you got beat 50-10, but Tom Osborne comes over to you, Nick Saban, and puts his hand on your shoulder after the game and says, "You're not as bad as you think." So I think if you're a Democrat and you want to look at the positive, last night was bad, but you still got a couple of games left in the season, and maybe you're not as bad as you think. If you're a Democrat, I think that's how you have to look at it. If you're a Republican, I think last night's debate was the entire 1995 season.
Covering every game.
I think, there might have, there was the Washington State game was kind of close. There might have been a couple of questions, perhaps a handicap. I mean, the golf thing, that was kind of funny. Well, that was kind of, there was a little drama in that. I still don't know how a guy can drop his handicap to 6 if you're the vice president of the United States. But that's not a political statement. That's just aren't you busy doing other things,
What
right?
does the vice president really do, though? Not to get too political here. That's the most,
good question.
I shouldn't say worthless role in Washington, but that vice presidency, for years, that's where they put guys who they're like, yeah, you can be a figurehead and not really do anything. That was the classic vice presidency role.
Go cut a ribbon and read to some kids at school.
And overlook Senate. Don't forget about that.
So my view of it is, September 9th, 1995 was definitely a blowout, but maybe you're not as bad as you think. They didn't fire Saban after the game. They only won 6 games that year, but maybe from and they beat Michigan. Maybe from a Democrat perspective, you can hang your hat on that. Maybe you're not as bad as you think, although everybody else thinks it was pretty bad. If you're the Republicans, it's the 95 campaign in total. If you're a libertarian, it was probably a lot like watching Joe Rogan's old show Fear Factor, where they ate bugs, and it was just this kind of creepy show that you watched, and you just waited for the hour to end, and somebody only picked up $50,000 if they ate the most crickets or something. It was just kind of a creepy. Ozark was that way for me. Ozark was just a creepy show. I'd watch it and just take a shower afterwards. So I think that might be, if you're from the libertarian independent point of view, last night was just kind of creepy.
Just cover your eyes.
So there you go. That's the definitive answer on that, on the blowout or the debate last night.
Bill Doleman with us, Pride of Fairbury with us, Hail Varsity Radio, at Bill Doleman on Twitter. And Bill, to stick with some football and some Husker thoughts, Nebraska able to grab Ceyair, Wright, USC corner, top 100 kid. They also got Brian Tapu, and Nebraska fans feeling a little bit better about the recruiting prowess for 2025. One instant guy, one guy that, if he sticks to his commitment, is a major add in the offensive line room. And also want to get your thoughts on just some X factors in the Big Ten. Good rundown by The Athletic today. They went through everybody in the Big Ten and laid out a name or two. And they took Dylan Raiola off the board, or they didn't say, well, Dylan's the X factor. I think we all kind of know he will be and can be. But Jamal Banks, how does that grab you as Nebraska's X factor for the freshman to throw to?
Well, I think that's a significant get for Nebraska because of his maturity in the room. Is he older than Garrett McGuire? I don't know. But with the young players that Nebraska still has, who got some experience last year, having him come in, and we saw him in his early press conference, like very early on in spring, as I recall, a real mature guy, purposeful. Obviously is coming to Nebraska to up his game to get ready for the NFL. I think of all the people we heard speak, and Matt Rule puts a lot of people out there. I think he's one of the most impressive guys. I wouldn't be shocked if he's a team captain. And I think for Raiola to have a receiver with a wide perimeter, right? Raiola can't go into the season. Kalen and Harburg can't go into the season thinking that everything has to be precise. Everything has to be hands-on. You have to be able to get the ball in an area where you have quality receivers, and they've got to have there's an obligation to them to make a play, right? So if the ball is in that catchable neighborhood, guys like Banks, who I think has that ability, they've got to be able to make a play on a ball that is well thrown, especially from a freshman or an improved guy from last year. So I think that's significant for Nebraska to have a guy like Banks. When I'm thinking about X factors, though, I was thinking more in general for teams and not necessarily players. But if you're putting one guy on this Nebraska roster, Banks might be the one, because he helps the receiver room, which has a ton of talent. Nobody argues that. Ton of speed, raw, and you've got a freshman in all likelihood, freshman quarterback, dealing. So he helps out in a number of ways, plus the leadership factor.
Bill, I'm going to throw an under-the-radar name at you. I want to get your reaction. X factor might not be the right word for him, and that's why I'm throwing this name at you. But with the off-season motto being Chasing 3, Tristan Alvano, could he be an X factor if he can get back to, I guess, the level that we were expecting out of him coming out of Omaha West Side?
Well, let me ask you this. Were the expectations too high? I mean, he had the game of his life, right, in winning that state championship game. Biggest stage he's probably ever played on, key moment. He nails the field goal to win the state championship. And, immediately they go out and they offer him, and he takes the scholarship offer. So, I think maybe look, there's a lot on that foot, and again, Nebraska needs to be chasing 4, not 3. We don't want to tie. So he needs to be there to kick extra points, right? Sure. I think that there's a lot on him this year. A guy like Banks, I don't think has a ton of pressure. He's coming in knowing what his job is. Alvano, he's got to keep his job. So does he feel that pressure? Is there somebody behind him that's, kicking him in the ass? Pun intended. And can he respond to that? So I don't know if that's an X factor, is maybe the biggest question mark of the entire fall camp.
Bill Doleman's with us, Hail Varsity Friday edition. The Professor, NBC Sports, at Bill Doleman on Twitter. Pride of Fairbury. Bill, I want to go to the College World Series, and I know it's been a while. We were up there. Has it been Monday of this week? Am I just blurry? No,
Hey, man, I'm on the teacher schedule. I have no idea what day it is until you text me to say today's the day. I'm like,
you're like,
it must be Friday.
Yay. So, Trev, A&M, there's been heat by the, I don't want to say vocal minority, but the message board gurus down at A&M. There's folks ticked off at Schlossnagel for going to Texas. That really stings because of who it is. Oh, you beat us, fine. We'll just take your coach, your staff, and your kids. That happened. And from a Trev standpoint, what do you think, knowing Trev like you do, how do you think he's handling the Texas raid? And how do you think he's dealing with Aggie Land?
Well, I think Aggie Land has members of the Aggie Corps in those big foam padded police outfits when they train the German Shepherds to fight the perpetrator. I think they're training the purebred reveillees, to nip at the heels of the athletic director right now in effigy.
Trev put this on.
No, look, I don't know. I think Trev's a smart guy. I know a lot of people in Nebraska are, that bridge is burned, and that's fine. I'm not sure he fully understood what culture he was getting himself into at Texas A&M. It's different. I've been in Houston on a couple of different occasions. I've been in that area. I've covered the Big 12 when they were in that is just a different place, right? And you have got to be really ingrained and understand it. My greatest tutor on Texas A&M was former Creighton head basketball coach Tony Baroni. And in addition to living, down in Houston, which is an hour or so away from College Station. And I just don't think, look, it's a sexy job because it's Texas A&M and it's got all kinds of money and it's in Texas and all of that. But man, you have got to understand the culture of that job and that place before you take a job like that. And it just seems so knee-jerk reaction. And then when he went in there and he made a ton of personnel changes right away with people who are Aggies. And once you're an Aggie, you're always an Aggie. And they got fired. And that was not a great start. And they remembered that. And now Schlossnagle leaves and goes to Texas the night after the national championship game. And look, it's a gesture. It's a professional courtesy gesture. We wish you well in your future endeavors. Whether you whack somebody or they leave you, you try to be cordial. That was not the time or ever the time, given the circumstance, to give Jim Schlossnagle that platform and then to say, we wish you well. He's made some really, really bad missteps ingratiating himself to that Texas A&M community mentality, culture, okay? Culture more than anything. And look, he'll probably recover the football. Mike Elko is going to be a good football coach. He's not his. He didn't hire him. But if football is on the right track, after a couple of years, maybe people will forget. But it's going to take a football season before they do. Then baseball is going to start up.
Is it a bad fit for Trevor, or is it just a bad start?
It's a bad start. But you don't take that job in the way he left Nebraska. It was knee-jerk. To me, it was knee-jerk. Sure, they were talking about it for a couple of weeks. That's a job you got to study for a couple of months. It's culture down there. And, he would have been better suited to take, like the Arkansas job or the Ole Miss job or, Penn State or something. Texas and Texas A&M are just different. And it's a bad start. It's a bad start.
Is it the wish you well in your future endeavors never something you put out on social media as an A&M AD because they are bitter and why would you dump us? Or is it because of who it was and it was Texas?
Everything. I just think the way it went down was bad, right? Less than 24 hours after he's gone to Texas. And I think you let him make a statement through the UT athletic department or whatever. You let him buy an ad in the College Station or the Bryan College Station newspaper thanking Aggie fans and letting them put it on the board and throw their darts at it or let Reveille use it on the floor. But if you're Trev, to say, good luck. I just don't think that was – just let him go. Just let him go and say, you know what? We have the best baseball job in the country. We're going to have the best facilities. We have the best fans. And we're going to go out and get the best coach to fill this job. That should have been it.
Billy D will check in this weekend, brother.
All right, boys. See you later. Go Big Red.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks to Bill Doleman for joining us. 15 minutes away, Clausborne will join us. He's imaginary. He wears red. And we'll see what sort of things are on his mind from the week that's been. Casper checks in. We've been talking about bad performances on a national stage in reference to last night's debate. This hits home. This got the celebration rule re-examined and instituted by the NCAA, again, pre-Elijah. But you had the 1990 Cotton Bowl, where I think the Hurricanes won, I don't know, something like 66-3 or something, just absolutely annihilated Texas. And Casper checks in and says, last night's debate would be Miami v. Texas. They only went and played each other one time, and it was one time too many. They both just need to go away. I think Nebraska fans feel that way with the fact that if Texas never got good again, they'd be okay with it. And if Miami stayed underachieving with all that talent, they'd be good with it. So those are two programs that you don't want to see have success. Where's Nebraska at? More and more national pundits weighing in on the Big Red. And Bruce Feldman, really enjoy his work. Of course, he wrote the book with Mike Leach, Swing Your Sword. We bump into Bruce every now and again at Big Ten Media Days, colleague of our friend Mitch Sherman's with The Athletic. And so he sat down with Colin Cowherd. We're big Herd guys, and we like Colin from his days back with ESPN, sitting down with us when he first started out. Colin was great about coming on his first couple of years when he made the move over to ESPN and would come talk college football with us. Big Nebraska guy. Remembers a lot of those 90s teams because of his affinity with Husky football. And he grew up in Washington State. So this is Bruce Feldman, and he was asked for a nugget on the Big Ten and, Fox's investment into the Big Ten. So let's take it away. What did Feldman say about maybe a surprise or the dreaded dark horse tag? What's he think about Nebraska specific parts of this Nebraska defense?
But I want a shocker in the Big Ten that we're going to look up in week 9 and go, we had no idea this team was this good or this bad. Give me a Big Ten shocker. It could be a newcomer.
The little wild card for me, and I don't want to go that far on the road. Like, I think Wisconsin will be much better this year in year 2. Yeah. But I would say keep an eye on Nebraska. Matt Rule struggles in his first places, and then he gets it going. Dylan Raiola is super talented freshman quarterback. He's a legacy kid. Yep. And when I say kid, he does not look like any, he looks like a grown man.
That was like the 5-star quarterback.
Yes,
kid.
Was committed to Georgia, was committed to Ohio State, ends up kind of going home where he has family ties at Nebraska. Very talented. The other thing that's big for them is, Texas last year, people couldn't run on them very well. They had 2 great defensive tackles. Nebraska actually has 2 of the potentially the best, interior defensive tackle combination in the country. I mean, they have 2 studs in the middle of the defense. They're going to want to be physical. I don't think they have a ton of firepower, but I think they will be much better. They had a bunch of games that go close. I feel like they're a team that has a chance to sneak into the top 25 at least.
There you go. Your Big Ten shocker. Joel Klatt. Cool. We love what Klatt says, whether it's pro or not with Nebraska. Now Bruce Feldman. 2 pretty big time voices on that big noon kickoff. And this is listen, they don't need to pump Nebraska for the sake of Fox or TV, right? The Big Ten and Big Noon, they have Michigan. They have the West Coast teams coming in. They have Ohio State. They've got Oregon. I mean, you have potential with 3 to 4 playoff teams if teams would do what they're supposed to do in the Big Ten this year. For these guys to be rallying around Nebraska, it says a ton about Rule, and it's okay to throw a dart. But for Nebraska to get that praise, Elijah, with Polar Bear and Ty Robinson, listen, that's pretty big. It's not, hey, Nebraska could be a pretty good defense, or Nebraska's got returning starters. It's no, Nebraska has 2 dudes that will kill your running back if you try and run against them. And that's the first time you've heard someone nationally talk about what Nebraska on the line can do defensively.
Well, Phil Steele did a little bit as well. So if you extrapolate out there.
Okay.
Feldman's talking about this just after Phil Steele.
Phil Steele, too. Yes.
Let me ask you this question, though, Schmidt. First off, let me get on record. I disagree with one thing Feldman said. I do not think Wisconsin will be better in 2024 than they were in 2023. I'm just going to get on record and say that now, June 28th.
Is that an eye test thing from you, or is that a schedule thing from you?
Both. I look at the talent, and I don't necessarily think the talent is better. I think you're downgrading at quarterback. I think your lines of scrimmage still leave a lot to be desired, and then you combine that with the schedule that they have this year, and I go, oof, it looks rough for Wisconsin. So I just want to get that on record here in June of 2024. If I'm right, we'll replay this. If I'm wrong, you'll never hear it from me ever again. But to get back to Feldman's point here about Nebraska, I want to ask you the question. As you look at 2024, Nebraska's ability to be that surprise team, to jump up and bite some people and be a team that you're in November talking about being in contention for whatever that may be, whether it's a Big Ten title or a top 25 finish to the season, whatever contention is in your eyes. I think y'all know what I'm saying there. Let me ask you the question, Schmidt. Do you think that comes down to Nebraska improving on the field talent-wise or improving on the field mentality-wise? What do you think is going to be more important for Nebraska to make that jump?
It's absolutely mentality. It's absolutely mentality, because I think from a on-field talent standpoint, I think you're better than you've been in a lot of years with what you have starting and what you have from a role guy standpoint. And you've seen guys who may have minimal experience come in with Tony White defensively, find a role, and thrive. I think there's a lot of guys that'll see a lot of snaps on top of guys that are already comfortable because they're able to fly around. I think offensive line-wise, you got this entire projected starting offensive line that's going into a third year now, second coach, but a third year with Coach Donnie. I think that's incredibly important. And you've added some depth. You got a guy in Jenkins that can play center for you if, God forbid, something happens with Scott. You got a couple options with snaps and in the program that are solid picks for you at guard. And you've got two guys at tackle that have played, if they can stay healthy and kind of reach that ceiling, that can be better than they've ever been, run blocking and more so pass protection. And you're going to have balance theoretically on offense. So it comes down to these turning point moments in a ball game where you got to go make a play on third down offensively. Because I think the defense will be fine. They'll get some relief from the offense. They have to. And then the running back room. They'll find two guys that can handle it enough to be balanced. You're going to have balance on offense. You're going to have completions and competency at quarterback, whoever it is. And then you'll have a defense that's getting some help. So it comes down to not panicking when it's a tight ball game. Chasing three, that's what they're focusing in on, man, is doing those things that can make a tight ball game be a moment where you thrive versus you see ghosts and you're afraid to make a mistake. I think they'll be playing much more confidently. That should or needs to translate into the win. So it's between the ears for this football team.
It's between the ears, and I think I'm with you, but because of some of the added talent, I think that's why it becomes between the ears, which becomes a weird chicken or the egg type conversation. Defensively, it's 100% mentality, because that defense was much improved last year from a talent point of view on the field. There are still little things that would irk you. You need to get more turnovers, make more big plays, which I think comes down to confidence. You need to do better getting off the field, especially third and short. A lot of times third and short, third and less than 4, which is a hard place for the defense to be in. Because
third and 7 sucked.
Third and 7 sucked, yeah. Anything, third and medium, third and short, yeah, both of those. But you need to be better mentally there. I don't think that's a talent question. Offensively, though, I think that's where the real discussion becomes like from a mentality point of view, how much does that help and how much does the talent help things? Because offensively, that was an offense that was pretty devoid of talent last year, aside from a couple of spots. I look at wide receiver. You saw some guys come on late in the season, especially with Jalen Lloyd being the one that stands out first and foremost. I think you saw the talent flash at times with Fedoni. You saw some talent in the running back room. I know that was a room that was plagued by injuries, but you saw some talent there. But you combine that with the talent that you're bringing in this year. I still think Mazuka is going to be a huge addition for the offensive line. You can't look past Banks and Nayor as being difference makers on the outside. And we're already 10 minutes into this segment here, and we've barely touched on Raiola and the impact that he makes on the field from a talent point of view, and how his improved talent can lead to more confidence and a better mentality throughout the entire offense. There's more of an argument to be had there, but I'm with you that generally speaking, I think a better mentality and improved confidence level from this team will do more to help their win-loss record at the end of the year than the talent that they brought in this offseason.
No, they've got to go Ted Lasso here and slap the old Believe poster above the coach's office. And that's what it is. And once you kind of stop pausing or freezing in those moments, and think about your margin for error, right? We've heard that for years around the football program, that you're so limited on one side of the ball or one phase of the game that you got to be perfect. Defense had to be perfect a lot last year. They really gave up one drive, and that one drive started in the Minnesota game and kind of followed them around. And it was the same way with how Iowa finished Nebraska, how the Maryland game finished, how the Wisconsin overtime session finished, really all of November, but it started in August in Minneapolis, where you're up, all you got to do is kill the clock, and what happens? Fumbleitis happens. So they've got to get out of their mind that something bad will happen, and that'll doom us. And they got to go out and physically take control of that. It's between the ears. They have a chance to be, fun this 2024 season. Clausborne's on the way. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Weekend edition tomorrow morning, 7:45. Catch it on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. You can also rewatch the show that way, and the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with the podcast. He's imaginary. He wears red, and we're still working on him. He may be poolside, passed out. We will see if that can happen. This buildup has been just glorious. And to get ditched today, well, I don't know how I'd handle that, Elijah.
Well, he's had a busy week, obviously preparing both of the presidential candidates for last night's debate, so it could be an off day for him. It's a hard job to go and do, but Claus, he does the dirty work for the American people, so we'll get a report in here soon on what he's up to. Look behind the scenes, like I was barely even I was like going straight to voicemail, so we'll see. We'll see.
Man. Well, keeping with Claus, and he has some arrows he likes to shoot at folks. It won't. Try calling him again, because Claus says try to call back, but it won't go through.
Well, okay, you fill some time here for a second.
But yeah, let's hear from. Hold on. Let's hear from Dion and Feldman, and what is the outlook for Coach Prime if Colorado has a, dare I say, good season.
If he gets to a bowl, then does he look to, what can he get out of there? Meaning, like, what's the next job for him? Does Jerry Jones try to hire him with the Cowboys if things don't go well there? Does, I don't know. Arkansas, I know the AD loved Dion, and Arkansas's coach could be on the hot seat. Is that a job he would leave CU for to go in the middle of the SEC? I have no idea any of these other things. But I think he's done a lot more right than wrong there. But when they have put themselves in such a fishbowl, everything is a public moment. And I think some of the comments you're talking about with Shedeur, especially, with one of the players who left, it was like, does that feel like it's beneath him to kind of wade into that?
Yes.
So that was Feldman on Coach Prime. Is he a lifer in Boulder? Most of us aren't. Without further ado, let us welcome in the man that's imaginary. He wears red. It is Clausborne. As Claus, how you doing here as we near July? Thanks for the time.
Well, I'm doing okay. I apologize. I was on the phone with President Biden, congratulating him on finally defeating Medicare. I told him I know the feeling of finally defeating a longtime foe, and that I just hope he doesn't have to play Missouri next week and then take on Medicare again in the Orange Bowl, like what happened to me. So I guess we'll see how this plays out over the coming weeks.
Claus, I'm going to ask you for our listeners and our viewers. Claus, are you thinking about a run here for 2024?
Well, certainly. I've had a little bit of experience in politics, and so I've been considering it. In fact, I've already got a good portion of my cabinet figured out. Obviously, I'd have Frank be my vice president. I'd have Charlie be the Secretary of Defense. We'd have Ron be the Secretary of Energy. On account of that guy doesn't even need caffeine to get going in the morning. And quite honestly, you two fellas have grown on me, so I got positions for you. Elijah, you spent a lot of time in Colorado, so I assume you know something about hydroponics, so you'll be the Secretary of Agriculture.
Cool.
And then Christopher, I'm going to make you Secretary of the Interior, because every time I see a picture of yours on Instagram, you're golfing or grilling, and I'm a little worried you're not spending enough time inside with your family. So we're going to do everything we can to encourage that.
Clausborne is with us. It's Hail Varsity Radio.
And Claus, I think the cabinet sounds great. I think all those are worthy picks, but you got to give us some of your points here. What are you going to be running on your campaign platform?
Well, there's quite a few things I think we've got to curtail. Obviously, I've been an advocate for keeping casinos out of everywhere, but I've really recently got into DraftKings, so we've got to get DraftKings and FanDuel in every state. And then we're also going to ban Barry Switzer. So...
Just in general?
I don't know where to, but I think it's time we bring back exiles.
Claus, we love you. Claus, what about... We're going to switch gears from the political thing. To 4th of July, fireworks. Are you going to make the trip down to Missouri?
Well, I, for one, really am only a fan of fireworks after we've defeated Oklahoma or Miami. Otherwise, I get a little bit spooked, and so do the dogs. But I got a call from Carl this week that says he's going to be back in town, so I suppose we'll make the trip to the Stuckies just outside of I-29 there and get some firecrackers and whistling bungholes or whatever it is that I heard about on that documentary about that fellow with the mullet.
What does Carl like to buy at the fireworks stand?
Well, Carl himself doesn't typically purchase a whole lot of fireworks, but he takes the same exits. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but every exit in the state of Missouri has a fireworks shop, a Dairy Queen, and an adult film store. So I'll let you decide whether Carl is going for the blizzards or not.
It's Clausborne with us here, another Friday forecast with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Claus, before we get you out of here, big topic for the week. EA Sports says Nebraska's not in the top 10 most intimidating places to play in college football. Your response?
Well, I think at times it can be, depending on where you are in the stadium. The South Stadium can get rambunctious. I think the North Stadium a little bit, and probably in the upper deck of the East Stadium. But in the lower level of the East and West Stadium, it's not so much intimidating as it is a good place to catch up on the latest Tom Clancy novel. So I don't really blame them, but if we start winning and playing more games against your Michigans and your Ohio States and your USCs at home, I think we can break back into the rankings for the next game.
Claus, this was a treat. I like the idea of Clausborne 2024. I think the cabinet sounded very promising. And we'll check in with you here after the 4th, all right?
Okay.
There he goes, Clausborne. He's imaginary and wears red. We'll wind down a Friday with Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, a Friday edition of Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Get yourself Cornhead Lager. Pour one and enjoy the weekend. Going to be amazing weather. Low 80s this weekend. That's outstanding as you ramp up to the holiday next Thursday. Programming note, we'll have some best ofs for you Wednesday, Thursday, and into Friday next week for Hail Varsity. Excited about that. And then it's time to take my golf clubs and take a little breather. I bought a lot of extra golf balls. Actually, Junior did last time he went golfing, so that was good stuff. Elijah, weekend looks busy for you. Do you have a stash of Axe body spray for tomorrow's engagement party? And, of course, the what are you doing at 2? You're golfing. You're golfing after you're umping,
Yep.
and then it's the engagement party.
Yep. So
Are you hanging out with your dude Crew?
I think so. Is he going to be there? I don't know. Crew, let us know. I will be rocking the natural musk for most of the day tomorrow. It drives the ladies wild, and not in a good way. So that's the plan for tomorrow. Tonight, shortly following the show, I'll be headed off to an undisclosed location for a high-stakes poker game. So we'll have an update for you on that tomorrow morning, 7:45. Sunday, back to the baseball diamond. I got a big rec league softball game as playoffs get going on Sunday as well. We might even try to rock an average Joe pod at some point this weekend.
We're thinking about that. Question, though, is there a guy in this illegal poker game you're going to be attending tonight named Teddy KGB, and does he look like Brandon Vogel?
No, thank God. We have one alleged KGB member.
Are there Oreos?
No. The more I speak on this, the more I'm going to be worried about a tail as soon as I leave the station. There's always cops headed up and down Cornhusker Highway here by us. So,
is there a secret password that you have to know to get in?
No, you just have to. It's all on facial recognition, you know.
So it's not short side option.
No, it's a high like security, high technology type system where you knock on the door and if they recognize you, they let you in.
It's not Matt Harrion.
No, but
Johnny Mitchell.
No.
Junior Miller.
There's no password.
Gerald Armstrong.
I don't even know who that is.
Look his numbers up. You'll love him.
With a G, I assume?
Yes. War number 95.
95, 92, 93, 6'2", 225, tight end.
Yeah, check receptions and touchdowns.
I'm not finding any stats.
Every time he caught the ball, it was a touchdown.
145 total receiving yards, 13.2 yards per catch.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Do we have the total on career receptions?
Career receptions, I do not have that, no.
Man, what is the internet doing to us?
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
We may.
Are you fine?
Yeah, you have to dive a little bit deeper. Total receptions, 19.
Okay. How many career touchdowns?
12.
Look at that ratio. That ratio is incredible.
That's pretty
Tomorrow, 7:45. Weekend edition, Hail Varsity YouTube. Like and subscribe. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. And download the podcast. Give us a review, good, bad, or ugly. Big thanks to Claus. Thanks to Billy D, Bill Doleman, and Jacob Padilla. Talk to you tomorrow with Hail Varsity. Thanks.